Hey, welcome back everyone. This is the 10th video of the Power Pages 30 Days Learning Challenge. So if you're new to this series, this is the new initiative I took this new year, where my objective for all the topics of the Power Pages from basic to advanced. So if we have a look into the quick recap of what we have learned so far. So we have learned about the Power Pages basic introductions, where we discuss about the fundamental concepts of it, the life cycle of the portal, how the what was the history of this portal, what are the basic components of the Power Apps portals, and then we discuss about the licensing, the pricing model of the Power Pages. From the fourth session onwards, we had the practical lab implementation, where we created the Power Pages trial instance and discussed about how we can design our first business website using low-code. We discussed about the design studios as well, and then we discussed and forms. And earlier videos, we discussed about the content snippet, which was one of the key component from the designing perspective. And in my last video, I discussed about the security and how to set up the Azure AD B2C. So if you just wanted to know about the portal security, the fundamental concepts of Power Pages security, how the authentication works, how the authorization works, what are the web roles, what are the table and how to set up the Azure AD B2C, then this session is for you. It is very important session from the security point of view. You can just check them out in the playlist. So I'm going to provide that in my description link. Okay. Today we're going to discuss about the configure form metadata in the Power Pages. So form metadata is basically it's a property, it's a feature that you can find it in the forms. So basically we have two types of forms in the Power Pages. The first is basic form and the second is the multi-step form. Okay, so we can use the form metadata with both the type of components. But before getting into the implementation, first let's understand what is form metadata. Okay, what is the significance of it? So if you ask me like why form data is required in the Power Pages, so sometimes you have to extend or override the properties of the form components. So what are the form components is there in CRM? Like the attributes, sections, tabs, nodes, timelines, and the subgrid. Okay, so these are the only controls that we have on our forms. So whatever forms we are creating in the Dataverse, so these are all the components are there. Now, as you know, like whether we are creating a form, so basic form or the multi-step form on the portal, we have to first go to the Dataverse and we have to create the form there. Okay, and we have to add the attributes, relationships, and the properties of it, like the name of the field, the section name, the tab names. We add a lot of controls to it, right? Subgrid controls, timeline controls, nodes control. So these are the some of the controls we added on the form. But sometimes what we want is we want to change the properties of these components only for the portal user. Okay, since we are making the changes in the Dataverse, so if anyone is using the same form in the CRM as well, those properties will be applicable for the CRM. So sometimes we cannot directly choose property to the CRM. So for example, uh, I have a field called email, all right, and I'm just going to use that email field on my form. But the CRM user wants to see the label of the email field as email, but on the portal, I want to display that label of that email field called email address. Okay, so the labels that I want to display of the same field differently on the CRM and the portal user. Okay, in that case, you want to override the properties of the Dataverse. So whatever properties you already have in the forms, whatever properties you already configured for the form components like section, tabs, timeline controls, and all, you want to override that for the portal user. Okay, because portal is something that you're going to extend it for the external user, for your external audience, and sometimes you have to display the content, display the label, instructions, and all the information in the user-friendly way so that they can understand it a bit better. Okay, but if you are exposing those controls in the CRM, so those users are the internal users, so probably you can keep some different names as well. That is also fine. But for the end users, you need to have some user-friendly names and the controls available. Okay, so that is the reason that we have have a component metadata. Another reason you want to keep different metadata properties for CRM and the portal users, right? So as I told you, sometimes let's say we have created a field and whether you want to keep that field mandatory or the optional, that you can also manage using form metadata. So for example, the same field you want to keep it optional in the CRM, but on the portal you want to keep that field mandatory, right? So you are just changing the property of that field on the portal side. So these are some of the examples. So some of the some more example I'm going to give it to you when I'm going to do the when I'm going to show you the practical implementation. All right. So the form metadata contains extra behavior modification logic to extend or override the functionality of form fields that is otherwise not possible with native basic form editing capabilities, right? So it's not only the form fields, but some other components that you available on the form. You can access those properties, or you can override those properties just to change the properties for the end users. Now, form metadata can also be applied on the following controls. You can apply it onto the attributes that we call it as a fields. We can apply the form metadata on the nodes, section, subgrid, tabs, and the timeline. So these we have that we can change the property for the portals. All right. Now, form metadata can either be used on the basic or step forms, because as its name indicates, it's a form metadata. So obviously it can only be applied on forms. And we have two types of forms available on the portal. First is basic form and is multi-step form. So we can use the data on the basic form and the multi-step forms. In the live implementation, we're gonna have we're gonna use the basic for the demonstration purpose, but you can use the same properties for your multi-step forms as well. Some of the examples I have just taken here so that you can understand that where you can apply the form metadata and what are the requirements when you face it in the real-time projects where you can use the form metadata. Okay, so make field on website and keep optional in the dataverse. Okay, so you want to change the field required label on the portal. So let's say you want to keep your client wants like I want to create a field that should be mandatory for the portal user when they are filling up the form, but that should not be mandatory for the CRM user, right? So sometimes you come across such kind of situation that you have to expose some of the controls on the portal that you have to make it mandatory only for the portal users, not for the CRM user. So in that case, you can go with the form metadata. Second, change the label of the field, section, or the tabs. So field, section, and tabs are part of the dataverse. So if you want to override the changes only for the portal user, if you have to change the label in a more user-friendly way for the portal user, then you can go with the form metadata. Convert look drop down, also one of the important, because lookup is the CRM properties, and sometimes as I also faced a couple of times this challenge, like your customer doesn't they don't like actually the way the lookup appeared on the portal, because if you have to choose any value, you just need to click on the search icon, it opens the model pop-up, and then you have to select the record. So there are number of clicks are there in order to just simply select a record. So sometimes they want like, can we convert the lookup into drop down? So that capabilities, we can also do it using form metadata. Render PCF control or the custom control on the portal. So this is also an additional feature that recently Microsoft incorporated. Like PCF control, it's a Power Apps control components framework. So if you have to create any additional some visual controls, some additional controls that you can create using JavaScript and the TypeScript. So there are many experts in the community. You can just follow them up who are creating a lot of interesting PCF control. You can check them. You can check all the PCF control in the PCF gallery. So you can just search in the Google PCF gallery, where you can find all the PCF control created by the experts or the community folks. Okay, so you can add some custom controls also on the Power Pages site or on the Power Pages forms. But for that also you need the form metadata. Display data was subgrid. So if you have to display the subgrid on the form, so subgrid can be directly exposable to the portal. But if you have to change some of the properties of the subgrid, like if you have to enable the download subgrid records, if you have to enable the searching option, if you have to enable the add record option, create option on the, so these kind of features you can enable it using metadata. So directly Subgrid can be exposed when you add it onto the Dataverse form. But if you have to change the properties of the subgrid, then you have to use the form metadata. Regular expressions. So sometimes you have to validate the user inputs. So for example, like email address, phone number, or probably some SSN number, some unique identifier you are expecting from the user, and that should be in the correct format, right? So postal code especially. So sometimes you need to write the script for that. So you don't need to do that. You have the regular expressions available. So that regular expression can use to validate your data. So for that also you need the form metadata. Auto-populate the data on the form load and the form save. So for example, if you have to auto-populate the logged in user details, so sometimes it is one of the most common requirement on the real project. Like when you are creating a form, you need to auto-populate the logged in user data. For example, their first name, last name, email address, or phone number, addresses, or let's say you have you want to auto-populate the logged in user in the lookup value as well, so that whatever data you are filling up or you are submitting into the Dataverse, you want to associate with the logged in user, right? So in my earlier example, I told you like, we have exposed the call for a speaker form, and call for a speaker is basically to submit your sessions for a particular event, right? So if I'm submitting the session, I want like whatever session I'm submitting from the portal, it should be associated with my logged in user account, right? So these kind of things, if you have to auto populate the logged in user details, and sometimes you have to auto populate the current date as well. So let's say you are filling up the enquiry form or escalation form, and you want like there is a field called request date, or maybe the submission date, and you want to auto populate the today's date automatically, right? So in that case you can simply use the form metadata. Add description or instructions to the field. So this is also an additional feature. So sometimes if you have to put some sort of additional message or instructions on top of the field, so the position of that description and instruction you can decide. I can quickly show you that while doing the practical implementation. But if you have to show any sort of description or instruction at the field level, then you can use the form metadata. Convert choices to vertical, horizontal radio buttons. So that is also possible. So choices like if you are creating a choice kind of column in your database, and if you have to display that choices in the form of vertical radio buttons format or in the horizontal radio button formats, so that in that case also you can use the form metadata. If you have to change node subgrid timeline properties, so that is also possible using form metadata. So all these properties, it's not possible to cover all the properties in one session. So I just wanted you also to explore all the properties. I'm just gonna take a couple of examples just to demonstrate to you like how the entity form metadata actually works for the basic forms and for the multi-step forms. Okay. All right, so I'm just going directly to the Power Apps Maker portal. And as you already know, like here I have two apps available. One is my portal app and second is my portal management app. So I'm just opening the portal maker app in the Designer Studio. So here it is my app, and just editing the Power Pages site here. So here also there are a couple of settings. We're going to manage it using Power Pages Designer Studio. So entity form, so basic form metadata. So as I told you, like the form metadata is basically applicable only for the forms, the basic forms or for the multi-step forms. Okay, but I'm going to showcase it only for the basic form. All right. So this is the basic form that we had created earlier, publish event. And if I just preview it, so this publish event form is basically to create a new event or new boot camp or the training. So here, this is my form where I'm expecting the event name, description, start date, end date, event mode, and description. So there are a couple of properties here that I can auto-populate, right? So the first thing is the published Y. Okay, so let's say Arpit is login on the portal, and if I am publishing the event, my details should automatically tag to this published by lookup so that it will automatically associate with my contact details. The second thing, the created on. So I want to auto populate the today's date in the created on so that user don't need to fill that up. Okay, so this is the two example I want to show it to you for this particular forms. Okay, so just log in it out and we'll log in with Azure AD. So just one thing more that I wanted to discuss, like the metadata properties cannot be managed right now within the Designer Studio. So Designer Studio is right now not capable to manage your metadata properties, but soon Microsoft is going to incorporate that feature also. Uh, Portal management app, and in the portal management app, I need to go to my basic form. Data is basically has child relationship with the parent-child relationship with the basic forms and the multi-step forms. That means there could be multiple form metadata can be created for the basic forms and for the metadata, sorry, multi-step forms. All right. Okay, so let me refresh this page and publish event form. Okay, so this is the form that is being exposed on the portal, and I want to change the property of these two fields, published Y and the created on. Okay, so I'm going to this form, and if I click here, and then I have an option called basic form metadata. So if I click here, uh, I can see there is a subgrid option is there because I can create multiple form metadata for my particular form. So as you can see here, I want to change the properties of all the form controls. So that's why it has 1:1 relationship. So if I have to change the property, let's say, first of all, I just want to auto populate the logged in user in the published by lookup. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll create a new basic form metadata for my basic form, and it will automatically auto populate components for which I can change the properties. So I want to change the properties of the attribute, right? Because this published by is the attribute actually. So I'll choose the attribute. So as soon as I choose the attribute, I need to select the attribute that I want to change the property. So I'll search here published by. So this is my column. So I want to change the properties of this. So if I just scroll it down, you can see there are a lot of properties I can change for this property for this particular column. I can change the label of it. Okay, so let's say this is the published by, and so this is the label. I actually defined it in the Dataverse form, but if I want to modify the label, I can just directly do it from here. So it will override it. So it will not reflect in the CRM, but it will only reflect on the portal form. So that is the quality of it. Some control style is there. So if you have to, change the drop down, the lookup to the drop down, then you have the option control style. So there are a lot of options are there. If you have the code components or PCF control I was talking about. So if you have already added a PCF control on the form, on the model driven app form, and you want to expose it to the portal form, then you have to use the code component, and you need to choose the attribute here, and then you have to choose the code component. And if you have to convert the drop down, the lookup to the drop down, then also you have the option lookup as a drop down. So a couple of options are there. So if you have to convert the option set as a horizontal radio button or the vertical radio button, so that option is also there. So you can explore it by doing yourself. But I just want to auto populate the logged in user details. So just scroll it down. And there are two options. Either I want to auto populate the details when the form is loading, or I want to auto populate the details when the form is saving. Okay, so it's up to me or it's up to the business requirement. So if I choose this option, then it will automatically auto populate the logged in user details when the form gets loaded. So the type I'm going to choose here is current portal user. So I'll choose this, and what attributes I want to auto populate in this published by attribute, I can choose it from here. So I want to choose the contact ID. So that is the unique identifier that I want to map it. So contact ID is basically the unique identifier of the logged in user. So I want to auto populate that in the published by attribute. Okay, so I'll just save and close this and click here, sync the changes. And we'll preview it, and let's see whether it auto populates the logged in user in the published by attribute. There we go. So you can see now published by attribute is auto populate with the logged in user details. Okay, so I don't need to manually provide the option to the user so that they can choose their same details again. So this is all not only about the contact ID. If you want to auto populate the anything that is available on your logged in contact details. So here in the basic form metadata, basically you can auto populate anything that is available on your logged in contact. So here I have auto populate the contact ID because it was a lookup field. So you always have to make sure like the data type should be same. So let's say, for example, this is a lookup field, right? So if you can see on the form, this is a lookup field. So obviously I have to auto populate the unique identifier here. Then only it will be mapped. If I try to map it with the text field, then it will not work and it will give you the error. But if you choose any, let's say a text field, let's say you have a field called full name on the form, and you want to auto populate it with the logged in user full name, then you can come here and you can choose any, you can choose the full name field from this list. So if you can see here, this is the list of contact attributes, right? So whatever information you already have stored in your Dataverse related to the logged in contact, you can auto populate that only. Now what I want to do is for another field that is called created on, I want to auto populate the today's date. So I need to create another form metadata because this form metadata is only to portal. select, don't have any option to add an additional value. So sometimes what happen is you want to create a lookup and you want to give the privilege to the user that if you don't find any records in the lookup, you can directly create it from there, same like in the model driven app. So if you are having experience in the model driven app, in the lookup we get the option called new, right? So that if you don't find any record in the lookup, you can straight away click on the new to add new data to it, right? So in the similar fashion, portal does not show the add new option by default, but you can configure it using metadata property. So this is the property for that. So basic form for create, if you keep it as a blank, then it will not show you the add create option. So, but if you want to tag it to the form, because if you want to create a new record from the lookup, you need a form, right? Then only you will be able to insert a new data. So what you can do is you can create a form first and you can just tag that form to here. So by doing that, so this is the one setting, and additional setting is that you need to enable the table permission as well. So whatever lookup you have, and on that lookup you want to enable the create option, that you need to have the create privilege as well on that particular table. So for example, I want to give the create privilege to the contact, right? So what I want is like this is the published by column. So user will click here to find the contact record. If they don't find the contact record, they can click on add new and create their own contact. So for that, I need to have the create privilege or the create permission on the contact table. Okay, so you can try that out. So I just wanted to show you like what this setting is used for. Description and instruction basically used to show some description you want to show it on the field. So if I choose yes, so there are two options. Use attribute description property. So sometimes when you create the attributes in the Dataverse, so let's say if I go here and go to my data workspace, so if I have to create a new column, let's say here, so when you create a new column in the Dataverse, you get an option to provide the description here. So whether you want to show the same description on the portal, so that setting is for that, use the attribute description property. But if you don't want to show that description, you can turn it to no, and you can provide your own custom description as well. And you can set the position as well, whether you want to display that above the field, below the field, and above the level. Okay. So this is all about the description. So sometimes, some of the field that user don't understand that what I need to fill that in that particular field. So you can provide the instructions or the description also. Validations. So as I told you, like you can provide the regular expressions as well. So you don't need to write the script for that. So for example, email validation, phone number validation, postal code validation. So sometimes we were not aware about these kind of features in the portal, and we just go ahead and start creating the JavaScript. So don't do that. If it is possible using regular expression, just try it out with that, because you have the option. You can put the regular expression here, and whatever error message you want to throw it, you can just put it in this box. Okay. Field is required property. So let's say I'm creating a field in the CRM. So uh, let's say this is my field, edit event, and this event, let's say I'm just choosing some other field that is not mandatory. So let's say this is the speaker profile, and this speaker profile is the column that I've created in the Dataverse, and I just kept this field as optional. So there are three options, whether I want to keep it recommended, business required, or the optional. So this field is basically optional on the CRM form, but I want to keep it mandatory on the portal form. So what I will do is I will use the basic form metadata. I will choose that attribute here. Okay, speaker profile, and will click this option field is required. So by doing that, I'm overriding the property of that field, and this field will be mandatory for that for the portal user. And what error message you want to throw it, you can just configure it here. So these kind of properties you can explore it on this basic form metadata. So two examples I have demonstrated, but the one is the published by, how you can auto-populate the logged in user details and how you can auto-populate the today's date. Let me show you some of the example related to the subgrid and the nodes control as well, because that is one of the most common requirement, that how you can display the subgrid. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let me remove this captcha from here. So let's go to the publish event, go to the pages. Let me add. Okay. So I just want to turn off this captcha from here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just one more thing here. I want to show a different form information. All right. Makes sense. All right. So what I have already done some groundwork here just to save the time. We already know, like we have exposed the event page where user can come and publish the event, and call for a speaker is basically whatever event we have published, the speaker can come to the website and they can submit the sessions, and related to that particular event. So that means one event can have multiple speakers, and one event can have multiple sessions, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to display a subgrid or all the child records on the event, so that when I open the event, I can see like how many sessions has been registered. Okay. So if I want to see like how many sessions have been registered on a particular event, I went to the data workspace. So this is my event table. So here is the form. So I've just created a new form called portal edit event form, so that, because this form I was using it for inserting the data, and on insert form, I cannot show the subgrid because the data has not been saved yet. So I cannot show the subgrid. So if I have to open that record in the edit form, I have created a separate edit form called portal edit event form. So if I open this record, so in this form, the rest of the form is same like the insert form. The only thing is that I have added a session registration subgrid over here. So if you want to add a new subgrid, I just can tell you that how you can add that. You can just click on add component, click a new tab, okay, and then in the grid you can add the subgrid over here. So in the subgrid, you can choose the option, so it will automatically show all the related records, all the child records of that parent record. So the edit event form is basically my parent record, and if you have to display all the child records of the parent record, so in the model driven app or in the Dataverse, you have to create the subgrid for that. Okay. So if I choose the show related records only, it will automatically populate the call for a speaker. So call for a speaker is basically we were using to submit the sessions. So I want to show all the sessions which is been submitted on this particular event. So I just chose this view called Active Power Guide view and click on done. Okay, I'm just discarding that because I've already added here, and I've added the timeline control as well. Okay, so I just wanted to display the notes as well. So timeline is basically it's a control available, or the component available on the model driven app form or in the Dataverse form, that is basically used to display the activities and the nodes. Okay, so there are two kind of data it can display on the timeline. The first is your nodes, and the second is your activities. So activities is nothing but the interaction or the communication you have done with your client in the form of emails, in the form of phone calls, tasks, appointments, right? So these kind of activities you can display. And notes is a feature that, if you are just working with the customer and you have to capture some quick notes, same like the sticky notes, you can do that as well. So I'm going to showcase like how to display the notes on the portal. So I've already added a timeline here. So now you can see here only the notes is visible, the time activities are not visible, right? So I'm going to display on the nodes here. So these two things I can I just wanted to demonstrate on the portal pages, and how we can change the properties of these two controls if we have to render it on the portal pages. So this is about the Dataverse form. Now go back to my pages. Now this is the view event page. So in the view event page, we were showing, we were displaying the list of all the submitted events. And what I want edit event form, and this edit event is basically linked to another form that is basically that I just shown you a couple of minutes back. So if I just wanted to edit this form just to show you like what kind of properties it has, click on edit form. So here I have taken the same table called Power Guide Events, but here I have selected a form called Edit Event. Okay, and the data is going to be in the edit mode because I'm going to update the record, and the rest of the property I'm managing it using a portal management tab. Okay, so this is about the edit event, and here it's a query string ID parameter. So if I open the same form in the portal management tab, you can see the other properties of it. So this is the publish event form that is basically in the insert mode, and this is the edit event details form. So that allow me to open that published event in the edit mode. So now you can see here, here is the edit form in the edit mode, and it is in the query string, the ID parameter. That's why you can see the ID parameter here. Now on this form, so let's say I'm the user who is logged into the portal. If I open a particular event, I want to see like what are the sessions is going to happen in this particular event. Okay, so if the open the Power Pages event, if I go down, I can see there is a session registration here. So these are the two sessions submitted by Arpit, Power Pages training and Power Pages 30 days learning challenge, and some of the details. So as you already know, like I have added a subgrid over here, but it is just a subgrid. If I want to change the property of this subgrid, for example, I want like user can directly create the new registration, create the new session directly from here. So if I want to add the create option in the subgrid, if I want to provide the download option on this subgrid, or if I want to provide the delete option or edit option on this subgrid, so these kind of properties you can only change it from the metadata. So you cannot change it from the forms, or you cannot change it from the Dataverse form as well. Okay. All right. So same goes with the timeline. So timeline is basically showing the notes that is already been added here. So notes also I don't have option to add, delete or attachment options, right? So these two controls we can also manage it using form metadata. So I'll go or head over to the my basic form. And since these two controls, the subgrid and the timeline, basically it's a note, is basically added on this form. So I'll go to this form and go to the basic form metadata, and then I'll create a new form metadata, and I'll go and choose the subgrid because I'm going to change the property of the subgrid. So as I choose the subgrid, I need to choose like which subgrid I want to change the property of. If I have the multiple subgrid, I have to create, the basic form metadata for each subgrid. All right. So I'll choose the subgrid record here, and you can see there are a couple of properties I can manage here. I can provide the option to create the option directly there. I can provide the option to download the subgrid record. So for creation, I have two options. Either I want to open the basic form, or I want to open the web pages. So since to create the sessions, I use the multi-step forms, if you remember, right? So call for a speaker was using multi-step form, but here we are getting the option to select the basic form. So we cannot choose the basic form here. Either you can create a new basic form so that you can choose it to create a new session. But since we have created a multi-step form, so we have the option to choose the web page. And here we can choose our web page called call for a speaker. Okay. And you can just simply provide any button label called add session. Download, you can provide the button label. So this will actually allow user to download all the sessions. So this is the subgrid level properties, and whatever items you are seeing in the subgrid, you can manage it using here. So you can change that, what things, what are the forms you can show it to, view the details of it. If you want to edit the option, you can delete the option. So these options you can just simply enable it. If you go down, you can change the column properties as well of the subgrid. So as you know, like we have already done in the list. So whatever columns we can see here, like session title, speaker name. So if you want to change the or override the column name, you can manage it from here as well. So let's say I'm just changing one of the property. If let's say, I'm just changing it to created on to published on. So let's choose a column called created on and change it to published. All right. So these changes. Okay, so if I go and hit refresh, I should expect all the properties that I have configured in the portal management should be displayed here. All right, so now you can see here the column property has been changed. So the column has been replaced with the published on. Earlier it was created on. I have the option to add the sessions. I have the option to open to download the details. So if I click on edit, if I click on add session, it should open a call for a speaker form, right? So as it is attached to the call for a speaker, so I can submit the session from here. Or I have the option to download as well. I can view the details, I can edit it, I can delete that as well. So all the properties of the subgrid I can manage using only basic form metadata. Okay, let's talk about the timeline now. So if I go here, head over to the basic form. Now click here and click on new basic form metadata. And now this time I want to change the property of the nodes. Okay, since it is a timeline, but I'm not going to change the property of the timeline. I want to change the property only the nodes that is being displayed under the timeline. So I'm going to choose the nodes part here. So timeline, you can choose it when you have to manage the activities and the nodes properties both. But I'm going to change only nodes property here. So I'm just going to choose the nodes here. So if I choose the node, then I have a lot of options to configure here. Create enabled. So I can choose true, because right now if you can see here, I can only read out the nodes. I cannot delete the nodes. I cannot edit the nodes. I cannot add a new nodes. So I can configure all the things from here. Editing I can also enable. I can also enable the delete some option. While creating a new node, whether they can attach anything. An attachment location either could be Dataverse or your node attachment, or could be your Azure Blob Storage. All right. There is no SharePoint integration here. So all the node attachment is a CRM property or the Dataverse property. So there is no way that whatever nodes you are attaching, it will sync it to the SharePoint. But you have couple of options like the Power Automate that you can write it on create of the nodes attachment that will cut and paste it in your SharePoint location. So that can extract as well. So that is an additional business logic if you don't want to keep your nodes in the uh, in the in the Dataverse, right? So you can decide the file size as well. So these are all the properties you can do it related to the nodes. I'm just saving it close and just going back here and sync back my changes. All right, so if I just refresh this page again, Okay, so I still can't see it. Okay, so this is a good thing that I have changed the properties. I have configured all the properties for the nodes. I have provided necessary properties here, like use and delete the nodes. But unless I provide the table permissions, unless I enable the security, I'll not be able to perform any transaction on the node entity, right? So what I have to do is, first of all, I go to the table permission. So I'll go to the setup, table permission, and you can see there is no permission I have provided for the nodes table. So I'll click on the new permission and I want to do something for the nodes. And one more thing I just wanted to tell you, in the Designer Studio, right now, there is no option to provide the parental relationship. Okay. Because if you have to provide the parental relationship, you have to give the option for the child permission or the parent permission as well. So, but Designer Studio does not have that capability right now. And since Note is going to be the child record of your events, right? Because if I go to the event, so this event is basically my parent record, and notes are basically going to be the child records because one event can have multiple nodes, right? So since here is a parent and child relationship, so the permission that I'm going to here use is parental relationship, right? So parental relationship I cannot configure from here. So I'll go to the portal management tab, and here I'll head over to the table permission, and I'll create a new permission here for notes. And I need to choose the table called notes here. Annotation we call it as well. And the website is Power Page Training. Now access type I have to provide its parent. Now if I choose the parent, I need to choose the parent table permission as well. So parent table permission means what is your parent table? So my parent table is the publish event, right? So this is my parent table. So you need to choose the permission here, whatever you have enabled for your parent table. So my parent table permission is the publish event permission, right? So this is going to be my publish table permission, and I have to choose. This is the relationship between that. So what permission I want to give it to the nodes? I want to read it. I want to create. Since it's required to associate with the parent record, so append and append to is also required. I want user to delete that, update that. So all the privilege I have provided here. So I'll just save and close. So no matter whether you have enabled the create, edit, and delete feature, if you don't provide the security, then you'll not be able to perform the operation from the portal. Okay, so I'll sync the changes. Okay, and then hit refresh. If I go down, so now you can see here, I have the option to create a new node. Okay, so I can provide like node added by Arpit, or you can attach the file as well. Same like, that you attach it on the other forms, and you can click on add node. Now you can see the node has been added. If you want to edit that record, then you can anyways edit that, or you can delete that node as well. All right, so you have all the privileges now on the node entity. So this is about that. Now if you have the question like how I can display here, because right now you can see only nodes, but if you have to display all the activities on the timeline, so then there is a additional property that you have to create it. So I've just kept it for you, that is display all user activities on the timeline. Okay, so you just need to create a site setting in your portal management. So just click in the site setting. So first of all, you need to find out whether it's already there. If it is not there, then you have to click and just save it and just provide your website name here. True. So by enabling this, you can ensure that if there is any activities are there on your timeline, so that activities could be your email activity, phone call activity, your fax, your appointments, anything. Okay, so that you can also display it here. So notes can directly be displayed on the timeline. You don't need to enable any sort of settings, but for activities you need to enable these settings. Okay, so that's all for today. If you have any questions related to this uh, the today's session, you can just comment me out. I'll try to answer the question. In my next session, I'm going to discuss about, I think it's about the liquid template. I don't remember exactly, but we're going to discuss about the liquid template and some home page designing. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to today's video, and take care and bye-bye.